Hi there, and welcome to this Zoom session in which I will be explaining the theme of toxic love and its far-reaching and destructive outcomes in the novel Wuthering Heights by Emily Brontë. So first off, let's briefly introduce the novel Wuthering Heights itself. So the novel Wuthering Heights was published in 1847. It was written by the English writer Emily Brontë, and it's the only novel written by her. So, firstly, the setting and context of the novel. The novel is set in the 19th century Victorian era, and the landscape where the story takes place is in Yorkshire Moors in England. Now, the place itself has a very deep connection with the story because the setting of the Moors actually portrays the isolation, which is also a part of Heathcliff's life. He's also an orphan taken in by Mr. Earnshaw, and after Mr. Earnshaw's death, he again has to go through isolation through most part of the story. So that reflects Heathcliff's isolation, and not only that, it's also an autobiographical detail because it is said that Emily Bronte's brief life was not a very happy one. So she also went through some isolation in her life. So that's the setting and the context of the novel. Secondly, the Gothic elements in the novel Wuthering Heights. Now, in Wuthering Heights, a lot of the times the weather, or as I said, the landscape, foreshadows the future events of the novel. For example, if there's a thunderstorm and heavy rains, then it predicts of some future event, some negative event that is about to happen in the future. So these are the Gothic elements that are in the novel, and there are also, of course, dark themes and a brooding atmosphere, distressing atmosphere and environment in the novel uh, that makes us categorize Wuthering Heights as a piece of Gothic literature. And thirdly, and probably most importantly, social commentary. This novel serves as a great commentary on society. Firstly, it tells us about the class distinctions that existed very predominantly in the Victorian era, because Emily Bronte, while growing up, she witnessed a lot of that, and that's how that's why she also made it a part of this novel. Now, in the novel, Catherine Earnshaw rejects the idea of marrying Heathcliff and chooses Edgar Linton over him just because of the reason that she wants to maintain her own social class. And Heathcliff does not come from a well-to-do social family. So he was an orphan who was adopted by Catherine Earnshaw's father. So Catherine Earnshaw, even though she loves madly Heathcliff, but she still chooses to marry Edgar Linton. So that's the aspect of class distinctions that the novel very beautifully portrays. And then gender roles. Now, a lot of the times, the males of the in the Victorian era had much more freedom in choosing their partners or doing many other things which the females were bound to do in a certain manner. For example, Catherine Earnshaw, being a woman, she's even more obliged to follow the social norms and customs, and she could not choose a partner outside her social class. Even if she wanted to, it would have been much more difficult than for a man. And then lastly, the consequences of unchecked emotions. Now, this is something which is not just limited to Victorian era. The consequences of unchecked emotions, whenever a an emotion or some feeling takes uh, takes the face of obsession, turns into obsession, then it has negative and far-reaching effects on not just the people involved, but for the people around them as well. So this is how Wuthering Heights also serves as a social commentary. And now, emotional turmoil and obsession. Now we're going to be exploring and dissecting the theme of toxic love itself. So, firstly, the toxic love between Catherine Earnshaw and Heathcliff is an unhealthy fusion. Why are we referring it to an unhealthy fusion? Excuse me. So, why are we referring it to an unhealthy fusion? Firstly, because Catherine chooses Edgar Linton over Heathcliff. So, after her marriage, she should have lived happily with Edgar Linton and she should have forgotten Heathcliff, or she at least should have tried to do so. But even after her marriage with Edgar Linton, she's still obsessed with Heathcliff and wants him to be around her as well while she's married to Edgar Linton. So this is where the toxicity comes from. That she's not with Heathcliff, but she doesn't want to see him with anybody else either. So Catherine sees herself as incomplete without Heathcliff because there's a point in the novel when Catherine Earnshaw is talking to Ellen Dean, Nellie Dean, the caretaker, and Catherine Earnshaw says these following words: "He is more myself than I am. Whatever our souls are made up of, his and mine are the same." She's referring to Heathcliff. So it's this level of obsession that she has for Heathcliff in her heart. But still, she did not choose to marry him. So that's where the toxicity comes from. Secondly, relentless obsession. Whereas on the part of Heathcliff, uh, this rejection by Catherine Earnshaw, the choosing of Edgar Linton over him, this sets Heathcliff on the path to take revenge on Edgar Linton in any way he can, even though it's Catherine Earnshaw's own decision to marry Edgar Linton. But Heathcliff uh, makes it the goal of his life to hurt the Linton family in any way he could. So it's his relentless obsession towards Catherine. And then thirdly, contagious misery. As I've pointed out before, that the effects of toxic love are far-reaching. So they fall also on the people around the ones who are directly involved. For example, in this case, apart from Heathcliff and Catherine Earnshaw, the negative effects of their toxic love also falls upon Edgar Linton because he has to tolerate the various emotional outbursts by Catherine Earnshaw. And then for young Kathy as well, because Heathcliff forces her to marry his son just to take revenge on Edgar Linton and to inherit the property of Thrushcross Grange. And then Hareton Earnshaw, the son of Hindley Earnshaw, Heathcliff makes him a servant in his own father's household just because he hated his father. So these are the people who were not directly involved with their toxic love, but they had to tolerate its negative impact. Now, physical and mental decline. How does this toxic love caused the physical and mental decline? And we're focusing solely on these two characters as physical and mental decline, Catherine and Heathcliff. Firstly, Catherine's suffering. Catherine kind of died in the novel due to this toxicity because the moment when Heathcliff visits the Earnshaws one day and a physical fight takes place between Heathcliff and Edgar Linton, after which Heathcliff flees the house, and Catherine Earnshaw at that moment falls sick. And it's this illness that takes her life ultimately. And just after, moments after giving birth to young Kathy, she dies. So we can say that this toxic love or this fiery obsession that she had in her heart, this was the cause of her death ultimately. Then Heathcliff's torment. Now, Heathcliff's obsession with revenge, what it does to his physical and mental decline is that it kind of diminishes his own humanity or his human side. He does not see anything else apart from his own goal to take revenge. He he falls to such a level, he stoops so low that he uses his own son Linton, who is so weak and on the deathbed, he even uses him as a tool for revenge. So that's you know that's something very disturbing, but it showcases how the toxicity took over his mind and his life. Now, social and moral corruption. We're going to be differentiating how the toxicity showcases itself externally on these two characters, Heathcliff and Catherine. Heathcliff, on the one hand, is manipulative and vengeful. So he manipulates other characters and, as it's written on the second point, uses others to fulfill his desires. So he uses various characters along the novel, along the course of the novel, to claim his own revenge. Firstly, he marries Edgar Linton's sister Isabella just to inflict more pain on Edgar Linton. So Isabella, who did not have anything to do with the obsession between Catherine and Heathcliff, but Isabella still suffers at the hands of Heathcliff. And then afterwards, Heathcliff manipulates and uses his own son Linton to lure young Kathy, the daughter of Catherine Earnshaw and Edgar Linton, and forces her to marry his son just to inherit the estate of Thrushcross Grange. So he's manipulative. He wants to use others to fulfill his desire for revenge, and he's very vengeful. Throughout the course of the novel, he is constantly in search for a way uh, to take revenge upon Edgar Linton and the Linton family in general, or anybody from that social class. That's why he also treats Harriet Earnshaw so badly. And whereas on the part of Catherine, she has moral ambiguity in her choices. After having chosen Edgar Linton, she's still conflicted about her decision. That's why she also keeps Heathcliff close to her and but stays married to Edgar Linton. So that's a kind of a that's a conflict which she cannot come out of. She has an obsession for Heathcliff, but is married to Edgar Linton, and she seeks both passion and stability. How can we say that she seeks stability? Because she married Edgar Linton to maintain her own social class, but she also seeks passion because she is obsessed with Heathcliff. Now, hope for redemption. Towards the end of the novel, however, um, we can see it ends on a happy note because even after all the suffering of the various characters and after the death of Catherine Earnshaw, Edgar Linton, and Heathcliff and Isabella, we finally see that the younger generation, the new generation, which is young Catherine, Cathy, the daughter of Edgar Linton and Catherine Earnshaw, and Hareton Earnshaw, the son of Hindley Earnshaw and Frances, they both start developing a new relationship by the end of the novel, and they decide to get married as well. And Hareton Earnshaw, who was turned into a brute by Heathcliff, he is educated by Catherine Cathy, and she wants to make him a gentleman, and then they would have a happy relationship after the events of the novel. But at the end of the novel, it is revealed that they have planned to marry each other. So, in conclusion, we can say that Wuthering Heights serves as a cautionary tale, firstly, because it teaches us that unchecked emotions or obsessions or passions have far-reaching and mostly negative effects on not just the people involved, but the people around them as well. So love can be a destructive force if not balanced. Everything has to be in balance in order for it to be healthy. And secondly, growth. The novel highlights the importance of healthy relationships. Now, throughout the course of the novel, most of the relationships are unhealthy, but the relationship that Edgar has towards Catherine, which is one-sided, by the way, because Catherine is, very toxic and has various emotional outbursts, but Edgar Linton uh, is constantly showing affection and care towards Catherine Earnshaw and has holds tender love for her in his heart. So Edgar Linton's love towards Catherine is a sign of health is a sign of a healthy relationship and is a part of a healthy relationship. But unfortunately, it's not reciprocated. And another healthy relationship exists between Hareton Earnshaw and Catherine at the very end of the novel, young Cathy, the daughter of Catherine Earnshaw. So their relationship is also a budding and healthy relationship which grows after the events of the novel. So that was about it for the theme of toxic love in the novel Wuthering Heights. So that was about it for the presentation. And now, if any of you has any questions, you may ask. If anyone wants to ask something regarding this presentation. Wait, I'm gonna allow you to unmute your microphones. Yeah. So is there any question? All right. Then we're gonna end our session here. So thank you so much for joining in.